Hello and welcome to another video. Today I'm doing a request. Mielinai, Blynai, these are yeast pancakes. Now, because it's a request and because I didn't even know about this dish a week ago, this will be one of my first attempts to make this. In fact, it will be my first attempt to make this dish. So, just as a note here, this dish doesn't look terribly complicated, so I'm not going through the whole prototyping thing. I'm confident at this point that I can make it, but if it doesn't come out, we'll do a retrospective at the end. Anyway, these are thick, fluffy pancakes leavened with yeast from Lithuania. They are then typically eaten with a mixture of sour cream and jam, typically as a light breakfast or light lunch or something like this. And of course, they are, like all pancakes, associated with Fat Tuesday, which is coming up. So that's as much as I know about this. Again, only heard about this dish a week ago. So next we'll talk about ingredients. For the ingredients, this is pretty easy. We have half a kilogram or a pound of all-purpose or low-protein flour. We have 3 medium eggs. We have 50 grams of butter. That's, I'll post a conversion to tablespoons in the comments. 3 tablespoons of sugar, a pinch of salt, and 1 packet of active dry yeast, and half a liter or 1 pint of milk. And in fact, those are all of the ingredients here. So we're going to get started. One thing I'm going to do off camera is I'm going to melt this butter, and then we'll go ahead and get started. So I'm going to melt the butter. I'm also going to heat up the milk until it's just barely warm to the touch, and then I'll be back. Okay, so the milk is barely warm to the touch, and make sure it's only barely warm to the touch because we don't want the milk to kill the yeast. We're going to add all of our sugar, and we're going to add all of our yeast, and that little bit of salt together here. And then we're going to pour in the milk, and we will stir this well. And then we're going to let this sit until the yeast is definitely going and we can see it growing on the top. That should hopefully be another, I don't know, 5-10 minutes, and then we'll be back. So at this point you can really see the yeast on the top of the milk. It's really growing, it's going to town. I'm going to beat these eggs, and then I'm going to add them into the milk. And then I will stir in both the eggs and the melted butter. Here we have the eggs. And here we have the melted butter. Well, I guess there was a little bit there that wasn't melted, but that'll be fine, I'm sure. And then I'm going to stir this together very nicely. So then this will be the basis of our dough. Now there's one thing about the dough that I didn't really, that I missed last time, which is that we're actually going to add an additional teaspoon of baking powder. And as I've covered in a couple of other videos about breads that have both yeast and baking powder, the baking powder is being used as a dough conditioner. So I'm going to add the baking powder. I'm going to whisk it together with the flour lightly, just so that it doesn't all go onto the liquid all at the same time. And there's something very interesting that happens when we do yeast breads with baking powder. The texture changes quite a lot. So keep that in mind. And then we're going to sift this into the milk mixture. So let's bring our milk mixture back here. Take a sieve. You can use a flour sifter if you're in the US. And we're just going to pour this into the sieve. and you just shake it back and forth. And as this is being done, we can stir this in. We want to get a consistency kind of similar to sour cream. Now, the biggest thing about this is, keep in mind we have a lot of butter here, we have a lot of milk, and the milk has not been fully scalded, so it's full of all these proteins that are going to inhibit the formation of gluten. So we're going to end up with a very light dough. I'm also using a low gluten flour. And basically I'm going to stir this together. Now, if this comes out too thin, it should be like a thick sour cream. If it's too thin, then we're going to add more flour. I think this needs a little more. Yeah, definitely need a little more flour. You see how that is? And then, okay, that looks, it looks like, yeah, that's looking like maybe even just a little more. Oh. We don't want a dough. We want like a really thick batter. Okay, this is looking like I would expect. And then from here, I'm going to let this sit while the yeast forms the bubbles, and it should grow in size. Yeah, I'm gonna add a little more. It should grow in size about double, and then we will start cooking. There we go. That looks really good. All right, so we're going to leave this covered in a warm place. Standard rules about winter baking apply. If you are cooking this in and it's too cold, you can use a warm water bath, or you can put in an oven covered in with some source of moisture, and just simply let it proof in there. So we'll let this rise, and we'll be back in about an hour. So now I've put a little bit of oil in a pan, and I'm just going to take, I'm going to basically spoon this into a pan. You're going to notice that's a little bit glutinous. And I've turned the heat down to sort of a medium-low, primarily because these are going to come out pretty thick. And then from here, we are going to sort of slowly cook these on both sides. So once they're ready to turn over, I will be back. We kind of want them golden brown on both sides. And I'm going to try to do, I don't know, maybe 5 or 6. So think of these as sort of like a lightly fried bread, more than like a pancake as such. So I'll be back in just a few minutes when these are ready to flip. Okay, so now once they're starting to get golden brown on the other side, they're ready to flip. And here I probably haven't left myself enough room in the pan, but we'll manage. And so we'll go ahead and flip all of these, and I'll be back when they're ready. You can see they puff up nicely. They're going to be nice and fluffy, but they're also going to be a little more bread-like than your standard breakfast pancakes. And so here we have our Mielinai Blynai. Now to plate them, I'm just going to take a few of them and put them on one side of the plate, maybe like 4 or so. And then I'm going to pair them with, I think, this sour cherry jam and some sour cream. So starting with the sour cream. Just the sour cream on one side. And For the jam, you can use whatever kind of jam you like. Just put some of that on the other, and then as people can eat them, they can dip them in both. And so here we have our plated pancakes here. Next up for the taste test, and let's go ahead and try them. Now for the taste test. Take a little piece of the pancake. I'm going to try a little bit by itself. These are remarkably light and fluffy. They have the soft texture that you typically see with these breads that have both yeast and baking powder in it. It's really, really, really nice. Now I'm going to go ahead and try some with sour cream, just sour cream. Now that's something right there. Sour cream makes it just a little bit sour, buttery. It's really good. Trying it with the jam and the sour cream. That's absolutely delicious. Now, if you find this content interesting and useful, I hope I've earned a subscription from you. Please also click the bell so that you get notified of any new videos I make. It's one way in which I can kind of understand what you like and make more videos to that effect. Additionally, if you like this particular video, that helps tell me that you like this kind of content and I should make more of it. So please feel free to participate in that decision-making process. So I look at views, I look at likes as my primary method of trying to decide what to make more of. At any rate, I hope you really enjoyed this content. I hope you really like making this dish. It's certainly a fun dish for me, and I will be making this again. I want to say that this recommendation was really, really good. So with that, I want to say have a great week, bon appetit, and see you next week.